Hi, welcome back to Frequently Asked Fridays. Today is 8/18/2017. Anyway, I'm here to answer your questions. Just know you can always drop me an email with your question and I will be answering them on Frequently Asked Fridays. Karen, info@karenstrange.com. So let's see, without further ado, let's begin. Jacksonville, Florida says, I've had a couple of situations where I felt like EMS took the wrong action. What do I do if I think EMS is not doing it right or causing harm to the newborn? So this is a little tricky because once EMS is actually called, they are legally responsible. And so it's really up to the person there to be willing to listen to you. So since EMS is taught adult, child, and infant CPR, they often don't know the specifics to neonatal resuscitation and specific to newborn babies. Now, I have just done a video clip on that, so you can go to my website under video clips, and there's one specifically on the errors or mistakes that happen with EMS. So without going into too much detail about that, what you can actually say to them is that you know neonatal resuscitation, to let them know that you would like to continue if you're doing it, or can you help? You could point out the things that are specific to neonatal resuscitation, especially like babies have prominent occipits, that it's really important to lift up their chest, that it's harder to get a seal on a baby, on a newborn baby. Also, it's critical when it comes to thermal management that you don't let babies get cold. And they're usually not very proactive about that. And then the other really important thing is that you have to ventilate babies first. Make sure you clear the fluid, dilate those capillaries, and oxygenate the myocardium before you begin chest compressions. And when you do compressions, you must also be ventilating, unlike adult, child, and infant CPR, where they're teaching just chest compressions. So all you can do is keep asking and giving them suggestions about how to do it better, because they are legally responsible. Next question. Let's see. Greensboro, North Carolina. Do you know of anyone that has done cord milking? Yes, for sure. I know of a couple of people. I just heard of one with a cord prolapse, where the midwife milked the cord right before she started. You would milk right after your initial assessment. I have another story. A friend of mine who I trained and worked with when she went out and had her own practice. We used to share stories, or she would share her stories since I wasn't doing births. And she said there was this client that when it was born, she just like the baby wasn't doing great. She had put the baby into the mom's arms, and I think she had even given the baby some breasts. And then she remembered me talking about cord milking, so she milked the cord like 5 times, and she said it was like amazing that it was like the baby just totally came into its body and gave out a little cry and settled in. So I do recommend you milk the cord if you have a compromised baby, a thin white cord. Anytime you have to move the baby to resuscitate the baby, such as in a water birth, you might have to, if you can't get to the baby, take the baby somewhere else, milk the cord before you move the baby. Let's see, from San Bernardino, California. What are the most important things to remember if I'm at a birth alone and need to resuscitate? Great question. So one, you want to make sure that you draw the baby, of course. And then if you're going to ventilate with your bag and mask or with your mouth, you want to have a dry face to get a good seal with your mask. And then you want to have that airway open. So it's airway and seal are the most critical. So on newborn babies, remember, I just said they have prominent occipits, so their head automatically flexes when laid flat. You might have to put a shoulder roll, a roll under the baby's shoulders, not a neck roll, not a pillow, but a shoulder roll. You might have to do chin lift to keep that airway open. You might have to use 2 hands to keep that airway open. So the most important aspect is airway and seal. Okay, let's see, Chicago, Illinois. Someone told me that you have a homeopathy analogy in relation to ventilating. Can you explain that? So yes, if you've ever used homeopathy, you know that if it turns out that it's the wrong remedy, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't create another problem. That's the deal with ventilating in newborn babies, except that it is the most likely problem. It is the most likely remedy, ventilating. If that's not the problem will still be there. It will not create another problem. It's very much what I like to call the homeopathic breath. So you have nothing to fear. Ventilate the baby that is either not breathing or not breathing well. I hope that helps. I love that analogy. Okay, last question from Madison, Wisconsin. I love Madison, Wisconsin. To be honest, I'm afraid of resuscitating, having never done it before on my own. How can I get over my fear? So I want to share a little story first. And I think I mentioned this in my last Frequently Asked Fridays, but you got to practice. You got to practice. You got to practice the skills and the scenarios. You could watch my Beyond the Basics Resuscitation in Newborn webinar series. You could watch it over and over. But even watching it, even taking the live class, even taking any class anywhere, you still have to practice. You have to do drills and scenarios. I suggest everyone does this. Birth centers, they pretty much have it as part of their practice. Every month, all the midwives set up scenarios for shoulder dystocia, hemorrhage, resuscitation. Where is everything? Everybody taking a turn, having different roles. You have to do that as well, because if you don't practice it, you are going to have fear. And the more you practice it, the less charge you're going to have around it. And it's true. I say that about just about all your equipment. You have to touch your equipment, play with your equipment, practice with your equipment, so that when you touch it, it doesn't bring up a charge. You're comfortable with it. So the story I like to tell about Melissa Denmark, who's a midwife up near Bellingham, Washington, and she shared in class one time that she said with her clients, not clients, with her apprentices that she's teaching to be midwives, before they leave her time with them, before they leave their time with her, she will make sure that she has them bag the baby at some point, because she doesn't want them leaving her tutorialship without having done it. She wants them not to have fear, because once you do it, once you really learn this, you're not going to be afraid to ventilate a baby. I mean, there are many people I've taught for years, and when we go through the debrief, because they like to talk about, what happened at their birth, they like to learn from what happened. I'll say, well, we'll talk about the breast. Did you give the 5 breasts? And they're like, oh yeah, of course they do that. I'm not afraid to do that, because they're not afraid. And that's how they learned it. So they're comfortable with ventilating. So my suggestion, if you want to get over your fear, is you practice, you do skills. And something else I say in my class is practice on your partner. It doesn't hurt. That's the other thing. I mean, I've practiced on my husband. I let him practice on me. It doesn't hurt. I started hearing about that in my class from other CPR instructors. So ventilating is the most likely problem. If that's not the problem will still be there. It's not going to create another problem, and you're not hurting the baby. So check out my webinar series at Beyond the Basics, Resuscitation of the Newborn. You can get that at KarenStrange.com/webinars. If you have any questions about a birth you've been to or anything that you're just like not sure of, please drop me an email at info@KarenStrange.com and I will get back to you. And if you've been to a birth that you'd like to debrief, send me an email and we'll set that up. I do have a link on my page, Karen KarenStrange.com/debriefs, and we'll set up a time to talk. So I look forward to talking to you the next Frequently Asked Fridays. Bye-bye.